We know that as homemakers, it is important for us to steward our home well, but how often do we talk about stewarding our body well, the temple of the Holy Spirit, according to Scripture? Well, today my guest is Natalie Julianne, who is a holistic health coach in training, who has a brand focused on gut health and health in general through a biblical perspective. She's so amazing. You definitely want to go and check her out on Instagram. I'll leave all her stuff below. But today we're going to be talking about why it's important for us as women, and especially as Christian women, to learn about our cycles and our body. We're going to be talking about birth control and its effects on the body, working a 9 to 5 sustainably, and so much more. This is an amazing conversation, so you definitely want to stick until the end. Before we get started, though, I have to share with you the verse of the day. This is a new thing that I want to start before a podcast, giving you guys a verse. And today the verse is 1 Corinthians 10:31, which says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God." And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Stewarding our body well for the glory of God, so that we can pass it down to generations, to our children, share with them how to have healthy bodies, and so that this can be a generational thing. So I'm very excited for this conversation, and I'm definitely excited for you guys to hear from Natalie. So with that being said, let's get right into the conversation today. And I almost forgot to say, but go do your own research. Everything that you hear today, we're not doctors, so go do what you need to do to learn for yourself. But I'm very excited for this conversation, so let's get right into it. Well, hello, Natalie. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast today. I'm so excited to get into this conversation. I think it's so important to talk about women's health, talk about the way that we eat, because today there's just so much junk out there, and I've been really interested in this recently. So I'm so excited to have you on. Thank you for jumping on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited, and I agree. I think that there's a lot that people say out there regarding women's health, and I think as Christian women, it's really important to go back to the source and
Absolutely.
educate ourselves.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So before we get started with all the other questions, I wanted to ask you if you could just introduce yourself. What do you do? And anything like that.
Yes, so my name is Natalie. I am from Puerto Rico. It is in the Caribbean. And I wanted to, before I introduce myself a little bit, I wanted to ask your audience if any of them have ever felt like sleep deprived, like bloated, constipated, like they're always tired and they feel overwhelmed because they know they have to fix something in their health, but they don't know where to start. So if
Mhm.
any of you answered yes, then I just want to let you know that that was me for the longest time. I struggled for 10 years,
Wow.
specifically with gut issues. And it involved bloating, constipation. At 17, I was diagnosed with gastritis. So
Wow.
yeah, it was like I looked super healthy on the outside, but whoever has struggled with health issues know that it's really like an internal battle, and not a lot of people can actually understand you because they're like, but you look great, but you look good. So that was my struggle. And it obviously didn't help that I was born with horseshoe kidneys. And if you're unaware of what that means, it's basically like our kidneys are supposed to be separated. So mine were, well, they're not were, they are like linked together, and they're a little bit higher
Oh,
than
wow.
regular kidneys. Yeah. And it's not like a life or death issue, but it happens. And when someone has horseshoe kidneys, it can really affect like the pain that they feel in their abdomen. They always feel like they have to pee, but they don't really have to. And it can actually
Wow.
cause a lot of UTIs in us women. So that's
Wow.
kind of like my story a bit. And so since I was able to heal myself naturally, obviously by God's grace, because you know, I have to give the credit to my creator. Um,
Absolutely.
Yes. So I was able to heal myself naturally, and that's what I do now. I help women who are struggling with, what I mentioned, either gut issues, sleep deprivation, bloating, constipation, and I just help them find what works for them and heal themselves naturally because it is possible. Unfortunately, like modern medicine, they want to just sell us a pill to kind of quiet down our pain, but then we never really get to the root cause. And so
Mm,
that's what I teach over on my page. Yes.
awesome. That's so good. Wow. I had no idea what a horseshoe kidney was or anything like that. So that's insane.
Now you know,
Wow.
yes. Oh, so I wanted to add that I am a college student, so I'm finishing up my bachelor's degree in marketing and entrepreneurship, and I'm kind of
Awesome.
adding that to like the business aspect of what I do.
Awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, I found Natalie through her page where she talked about her health journey through a Christian perspective, which I think is so unique. I think it's so amazing to tie that together. So I wanted to ask you, why is it important for Christian women, especially, to be educated on their health and on their cycle as well? Because today we're going to be talking about the women's cycle. So can you get into that a little bit?
Yes, of course. I think that as Christian women, it's important to first of all know and understand, right, the fact that God is the creator and sustainer of all things, and that we were instructed and commanded in the garden, right? He instructed Adam and Eve to take dominion, and that still applies today, right? Like taking dominion is not like a product of the fall, or like didn't disappear with the fall. And we have a command, right? We have a responsibility as women to steward ourselves, to steward everything that we've been given, be it food, money, time, our bodies. And we're also instructed to preach the gospel. So, we can
Mm,
invite people to our homes. In your case, like as a homemaker, right? Like as women, our home is our first ministry. And so I don't think that that is separate to our health. I think that in order to, be, what's the word, productive in the home, it's also good to take care of our bodies. Not that they're mutually exclusive, because there are days where you're just like, Lord, help me. Like, I don't have the strength, just help me. But I do think that it's important to steward our bodies well for the glory of God, for the service of others, so that we can have healthy children, that we can
yeah.
teach them, guide them in the ways of the Lord. And when we understand how God made our bodies, we can, like I said, we can seek to serve our families better. And so I think it's good to understand that God made us different to men. Like
Mm,
we're not the same. And that was done on purpose by design. And it is a good thing. And
absolutely.
things like our biology, they speak of God's creation, and they speak how God literally made us different. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So when it comes to our hormones, even our like digestive system, it's different to men's. And I think that that's something that we as women should be educated on. And that way we could just think generationally and serve our families better.
I love that so much. I think it's so important that we're learning this now before we have children. If you're a mom out there learning these things for your children, because I wish I learned a lot of these aspects of health, things about my cycle that I had no idea about. Like, okay, I had no idea that the cycle was even a 30-day process. I thought it was just, my period and that's it. So it's just learning about this over the last couple years is just completely mind blowing. So, like how you said, I think it's so important for us as women to learn these things, to tell our children one day and to steward our family well. I think that's amazing. So, would you please tell the audience the different phases of the cycle and how long the cycle is? Can you just talk about that aspect of things for women that don't know? Because don't feel bad if you don't know. And I understand that maybe you're a woman watching this and they're like, why wouldn't a woman know? Listen, okay, I learned about this not even 2 years ago. I learned that there were different phases of the cycle. So can you just explain that aspect of it?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I used to think that my cycle was only like my period and like ovulation. And I used to
Right.
think that ovulation was like the part where I was moody, like if I had a mood swing or I felt annoyed, I would think, oh, I must be ovulating. But that's actually like not true at all. So if you think like that, don't worry. We are here to help you learn. Our menstrual cycle consists of 4 phases. So if you want to take notes, you want to write this down, it consists of 4 phases, and it starts with our menstruation. So when we bleed, right, that's our body signaling to us that we have begun a new cycle. And so our menstruation phase should last from 4 to 7 days. I'm not going to say it should last a specific amount of days, because that depends on your body, but it should not last less than 4, and it should not be lasting more than 7. If it lasts a little bit more than 7, like 9, 10, 11 days, that's your body telling you that something is wrong and we should take care of that. So when you are in your menstruation phase, sorry, the discharge will be blood.
Okay.
and it will be blood because you have ovulated, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And during this phase, we tend to feel more restful, more gentle. We tend to go like inward, like when I mean inward, I mean like reflecting, thinking about life, like, am I doing things right? Or what could I fix? I don't know. It's just so crazy how God made us because, you know, it shows that there was an intelligent design
Mm.
in our bodies. And I
Yeah,
saw a post recently about this woman that I follow about home births. And she was saying that like there's something spiritual about giving birth. And that's why New Agers and the New Age community like tries to take control and credit for that, but really it points to God. Like it's just
absolutely.
God's special or general revelation to us through creation. So right after menstruation, where we're bleeding, we go and we step into follicular, right? When we're done with our period, we go into follicular phase, which lasts anywhere from 7 to 10 days. And there is actually where we will soon begin to prepare for ovulation. So I would say that follicular is one of the most important phases because how you treat your body during follicular phase will affect when you ovulate, and then it will affect when you have your period. So sometimes when women are like, oh, my cycle is delayed, then it probably means that something, wasn't loved enough during follicular phase.
Okay.
Yeah. And so during follicular, we tend to be more productive, energetic, resilient to stress. We tend to think, oh, what projects can I get done around the house? Or if you're in college or you're working, oh, what deadlines do I have to meet, etc. And it's just like a planning phase. They compare it a lot to spring. So things are like blossoming and things like that. Um, right after we move on to ovulation, where we tend to feel more confident and more energetic, and that is when we are fertile. So if
Okay.
anyone has ever told you that you can have babies all throughout the month, no, you're only fertile during your ovulation phase, and it lasts anywhere from 3 to 5 days because you only ovulate one day, but the days before and after you tend to be most like fertile. And then right after ovulation, we go into our luteal phase, which is where we're more moody, more emotional, more thoughtful. That's when we can be a little bit more cranky. So yeah,
Okay.
that's
Wow.
the luteal phase is when we tend to feel a little bit more cranky. A little note that I didn't say is about the discharges. So you normally when we're in follicular, our discharge is going to be a little bit more like creamy. So we
Okay.
have blood in our period, then we start turning to a little bit more creamy. Then in ovulation, it's either watery or egg white. So you'll
Okay.
either throw out like egg white kind of discharge, or it'll just be like a fountain of cervical fluid, depending on how
Okay.
your body is. Yeah, I personally, my discharge is like egg whitey, but I know someone that it's like cervical fluid. So she'll look like she's leaking. So
Okay.
it depends. Yeah. And then in luteal, it's more tacky because it's your
Okay.
body's preparing either to, hold that baby in for 9 months, or if you don't get pregnant, then you're going to, have your period.
Wow. Okay. That's so interesting. See, I learned some new things today too. That's insane. It's so crazy how our body works on a 30-day cycle. And it's so interesting how we have different phases. And I wanted to ask you, does the food that we eat affect how our cycle works throughout the
Definitely.
months? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and our cycles can last anywhere from 28 to 34 days. So if
Okay.
your cycle is like 33 days, don't feel bad. If it's 28 days, don't feel bad. It depends on your body, honestly. But
Okay.
yes, the food that we eat can affect our cycle positively or negatively. But mostly like if we eat inflammatory foods a lot, so maybe like, a lot of industrial seed oils or refined sugars, things that just promote inflammation in our bodies, it can really affect the quality of our cycle, and it can
Mm,
affect what you would call PMS symptoms.
okay.
So like when either you get really bad um, back pain, or you just get really heavy cramps, whatever the case may be. If you have a really nice diet and you incorporate certain exercises and you just live a balanced lifestyle, it can improve the quality of your cycle and you can have pain-free periods at some point. So,
Oh, okay. So, but really quickly, what's so bad about seed oils? You mentioned that.
So, okay, so seed oils. Okay, seed oils have gotten like hype lately, in the whole like wellness community, but
Yeah.
it's actually because they're very recent. Like they weren't what we used to eat in our regular diets before the 1950s. I actually have a whole post on this on my page about the history of seed oils and are seed oils even that bad? So unfortunately, you have one side of politics because I don't know why, but it's just health has become political. So you have one side of the political spectrum that will say that seed oils are like a right-wing conspiracy and that there's nothing wrong with
That's
seed oils,
crazy. Come
yeah,
on.
etc. And then you
Come
have
on.
another side of the political spectrum, which will say that, like Democrats are wrong for eating seed oils. Like, it's just like a whole battle. But seed oils in and of itself are industrial oils. They're oils that come from seeds, they don't come from like a fruit. And they are produced and they're made in a very processed um, structure, like processed procedure.
Okay.
Sorry that I'm being redundant.
No, you're
And
good.
they involve like something called hexane. So I feel like the best way to describe this, and your audience can then go into detail and do their own research as well, because I always promote like do your own research,
For sure.
know what people are talking about. But
Yeah.
I feel like the simplest way to say it would be it's almost as if you're like drinking a cup of petroleum.
Oh, wow.
Because when you look at the history of seed oils, it started with the people that created Procter and Gamble. I'm not sure if you know that brand. Like they have
Yeah.
shampoo and laundry detergent, P&G. So they were two, I'm not sure if they were brothers or like co-workers, and they saw that cottonseed oil was being put to waste. And so they decided to start using it.
Mm.
And then, fast forward a couple of years, we got Crisco on the market,
Mm.
and Crisco didn't exist before. People wouldn't fry their foods with seed oils. They would
Yeah.
use something like maybe tallow or other, bioavailable source
Butter.
fat, butter, bioavailable sources of
Yeah.
fat. And then in the 1950s, when the whole Industrial Revolution started happening, the war, many men weren't available to kind of like work the land. Even the women would also work the land, but it just there's a whole history behind the Industrial Revolution and how food quality started decreasing. And that's kind of when seed oils became like known in the market. And then
Mm.
you fast forward to the 80s, the 90s, they were already like common.
Wow. That's insane how that all works. And honestly, I didn't really know about seed oils until maybe a year ago when I really started to take it serious and start to remove things from my diet. And you notice the difference. And it's insane. I know I'm Puerto Rican as well. And a lot of our food has a lot of frying, tostones, all those things that I love so much. I grew up with that, and you grow up with frying it in vegetable oil and frying it in canola oil and all these other different things, and now it's really interesting to change things out with maybe ghee or other things, and you'll notice how much better they taste, honestly, and how much better you feel afterwards by not eating those seed oils. So I think it's so interesting. Definitely, my audience, go and do your own research on seed oils and see how different your cycle could be when you stop eating them. Definitely. So, I wanted to talk about what are some good foods to eat during each part of your cycle to best support the best type of health for a woman.
Yes. So when it comes down to food, right, I try to be very what I think that each woman is different, right? And
Mm.
what their body asks for is different during each phases of their cycle. And I
Okay.
don't think that it's like proper to say, oh, you shouldn't eat this or you should only eat this. I
Yeah.
try to be a little bit more, respectful with everyone's budget and with
Yeah.
everyone's just lifestyle.
Right.
But some key things to keep in mind is that when you are in your menstruation phase, that's kind of your body's detox phase. So, it's a good time if your hormones are balanced. I personally like this. Not a lot of women support this claim, but Dr. Mindy Pels, I think that's her name. She has a whole book on how to fast like a girl. And
Okay.
during menstruation, if your hormones are balanced, she says that it's a good time to fast
Wow.
because
Okay.
your body's just like detoxing. Now, if your hormones are not balanced, don't do this. You will just cause stress on your body And I'm guessing like the majority of your audience, if they're not aware of any of these things, then probably they might have some other issues or health issues that they should look into. So I wouldn't recommend like fasting right then and there. But for example, like myself, my hormones are balanced. And so when I'm during on my period, I find that it's good for me to fast personally. But
Mhm.
if you don't want to fast, which that's totally fine. And when I say fast, I mean like breakfast. I don't mean
Yeah.
like whole day.
Yeah.
Um, it's always good just to have like whole foods, whole foods. A lot of meat is good, like eggs. That's good throughout your whole cycle. But another thing that I will mention is during your luteal phase, which is right before your period, your body tends to be hungrier. And that's totally fine. So don't think like, oh, why am I so hungry? No, I have to like restrict. No, don't. Your body is asking you for more nutrients because if we are looking at this the way that God made us to be, that is the phase where you are conceiving, like you are getting ready to store that baby for 9 months. So you will be a little bit more hungry, and your body might ask you for more carbs specifically. So
Mhm.
don't restrict yourself of that. But I would say, like, for like in general, during all the phases, limit seed oils. Like really, they're just highly inflammatory, and there are other substitutes. So maybe I don't know if you want to talk about that really quick,
Yeah.
like
Go ahead.
substitutes. So
Yeah.
for example, like grass-fed butter, um ghee, like you mentioned, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. Those are
Yeah.
some good substitutes. Tallow is also really good.
Speaking of not eating seed oils anymore, I had to stop and tell you about MASA chips. You guys, MASA chips is a 3 ingredient tortilla chip brand that literally only has organic corn, 100% grass fed beef tallow, and sea salt. That's all these chips have in them, so you can eat chips without feeling guilty afterwards. So you definitely have to go and try them, honestly. You can use my code Anastasia Hounnou at checkout, or you can go to masachips.com/Anastasia Hounnou to get 10% off. And get this, when you use my code, it's only $14.40 for you to get 2 of these things. They're huge and they are absolutely delicious. It's not like the other brands where you try and get the seed oil free ones, but they break easily and they're grain free and all these other things. I like these because they're corn and they're organic corn. They don't use pesticides or vegetable oil, non GMO. Like, come on, you got to go and try them. It's only $14.40 for you to get the trial pack. So you definitely want to go. You'll get 2 of these in the pack, and it's only $14.40 with free shipping when you use my code. So definitely go and use my code Anastasia Hounnou at checkout, or go to masachips.com/Anastasia Hounnou. All right, let's get back into it. Mm-hmm.
And it's just like bioavailable, right? It's
Yeah.
just they're not oils that are produced in some like huge factory in order to make them. No, like for
Yeah.
example, extra virgin olive oil, yes, they probably have to ship it out, but it comes naturally from the olive.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
so I think that's important.
That's so good. And I love how you said that. It's not about restricting, because here's the thing. I'm the type of person that has tried so many different types of diets. I was vegan for like a year. That was I lost 25 pounds in a month. I thought I was doing amazing. And by the end of it, I just wasn't feeling the best. When I worked out, I felt lightheaded, like I didn't feel the best. Even though I probably could have been a better vegan, I'm not gonna like blame all vegans here. But I also, when I started eating whole foods, it completely changed everything. Because when I went back to eating meat and dairy and everything, I started gaining a whole bunch of weight because I was like, oh my gosh, all this stuff that I could eat now, and then I started eating all the seed oils and I started all that. But when I started to just eat whole foods, and not get all the processed things, just staying on the outside of the grocery store when you go shopping, it has completely changed everything for myself, for my cycle. It has completely changed everything. So you guys, I think it's so important, like how she says, is to eat a whole foods diet. And I wanted to talk about how you said the budget wise, because here's the thing. I understand a lot of people say that it's really expensive to eat a whole foods diet. And I actually beg to differ. I actually don't believe that. I believe that it's actually more expensive to buy things that are packaged. And I've noticed in my groceries, I know you live in Puerto Rico, so it's different there. I don't know. Do you guys have Aldi? Probably not. I don't know.
No, we have Costco, we have
Costco?
Walmart, and we
Okay.
have like local chains of
Okay.
supermarkets.
That's awesome. So we'll talk about that in a moment. I will say that if you live in, in the land of America, I highly recommend going to Aldi. Like seriously, there's so many good things at Aldi. There's grass-fed meat, grass-fed butter, ghee, all those things you can find there. And my grocery bill is low. So it's incredible what you can do on a budget. So I highly recommend to just try it. Try only eating whole foods, only getting vegetable or only getting fruits, only getting the meat, the dairy, and everything from there. They even have raw cheese. Like it's insane what you can find there. Yeah. So I highly recommend you guys, if you are trying to eat a more whole foods diet and you think that it's more expensive, just try for 1 week to do it and see that it's actually not much more expensive at all. But what do you have to say about that?
You mean like the budget?
Yeah, like budget wise, like where how people can start with this, and maybe it might be a lot for someone to switch to only whole foods all the time. So what do you have to kind of help people with this?
Yes. No, I personally follow more of like an animal-based diet, so it's
Yeah.
more like whole foods. But it's not all the time because I love like cookies
Yeah.
and cake. And so when I eat cookies and cake, which is actually something that I teach on my program, I don't tell the girls like, "Oh, don't eat cookies and cake anymore." No, I say
Right.
them, just make them from good quality ingredients. So like
Right.
maybe you can use sourdough discard or a bit of a sourdough starter or like organic all-purpose unbleached flour. That's
Mm,
how I make my desserts. Because I think that health should not be boring. Like you shouldn't have
yeah.
to eat like boring foods. Make it fun, enjoy it, enjoy the whole process. Make this like a learning experience with your kids, with your husband, with your siblings, with your parents, with whoever. But I definitely agree that there's a misconception in terms of like, oh, I want to eat healthy, but I can't afford it. Sometimes, you can't afford going all in at once. And I don't think anyone recommends that. I think that any seasoned health expert will tell you go step by step because
Right.
if not, you're gonna have to like empty out your whole house and it's gonna be so overwhelming. So go
Yeah.
step by step. But I would also recommend checking your priorities. If focusing on your health right now is a huge priority, then maybe analyze where are you spending a lot of money. Maybe it's
Mm,
like eating out. So maybe cut back the expenses eating out, or maybe cut back
right.
the expenses on like this subscription. I have a friend who we were actually chatting about this because she has like some hormonal issues, and she was telling me like, Natalie, like I had to cut out Netflix in order to get like a better grocery get better money for groceries.
Yeah.
And honestly, like it depends on your budget. She's a single woman and she lives by herself and she has her own job. And so, do what you got to do. But I definitely
Yeah.
agree with you when you stick to like the whole foods, um it's a bit less expensive. And also, for example, like if you want to buy fruits, me personally, I buy them as a whole. I don't buy them packaged because
Yeah.
they're gonna charge you the cutting, the shipping, the packing, they're gonna
Yeah.
try and get their money from any way that they can. So
Yeah.
I would recommend sticking to the whole foods. And
Yeah.
if you want packaged options, so like snacks, start by researching before you go to the grocery store. Research what kind of ingredients should I avoid, what brands are good. And when you live in the States, you have a lot more options than here in Puerto Rico
Mm,
in terms of like snacks. So speaking about that real quick, here in Puerto Rico we have Costco, and I'm able to find really good snacks at Costco, but we don't have an Aldi's and we don't have like Trader Joe's or any of the sorts. But we also have a Supermax, which is like a local chain, and there I'm able to get grass-fed meat,
that's awesome.
like organic potatoes, things like that.
Yeah. I love that you said that, just start small, because that's exactly what I did. I started small. I started to realize, wow, I have so many things in my cabinets that have all these bad ingredients. What can I do to swap out? The first thing was the oil. I think that's a really easy one to swap out with avocado oil. I understand it's a few dollars more and you get less. I totally understand that it can be that you think like in your mind like it's so much more, but actually if you think about your health wise, I think it's an investment that's $3 more for $3 4 more for oil. I think it's really I think that's a good investment right there. So
Um,
yeah, but I started small. And I mean, as a Puerto Rican, we love the sazon. I started to like I took that out because it had all the red dyes and all those things. Just a lot of just a lot of the things that I had in my fridge, I started to realize, wow, I could swap this out and we could do one by one every time that you go grocery shopping. So I think that's so important to start small, start with what you have, like how you said, that's so amazing. And it's so possible for you. If you're watching this, like I'm telling you, it is so possible to swap things out and you will realize the difference. I have to share my testimony really quick because I shared this with you that I have had painful periods since I was in high school. So like 6 years, 7 years, oh, man, 8 years. I don't know, however long it was that I was in high school. um, but I have had painful periods. I would have these terrible cramps ever since I was young, and it wasn't until literally this last month. So I'm gonna keep on seeing because maybe it's just a fluke. I don't know. But I just started eating an animal based diet 2 months ago, like a month and a half ago. I started to eat mostly animal based, so mostly meat, you know, raw things, raw milk, stuff like that. And this is the first time that I've ever had a pain-free period. I did not get cramps this time. And it's insane. And I don't know if it's because of that. I hope it is. I'm gonna keep on seeing because my period's coming along soon here too. But and I totally feel you. Like I've been getting so hungry recently. So I'm like, oh my goodness, like this, yeah. But I'm
It's
definitely
coming, it's coming.
yeah, literally. But it's insane what your diet can do when you eat whole foods and what your diet can do to your cycle. So I think that's so amazing. So I'm really excited. And I hope that everyone listening does that. Every single time that you go out shopping, I hope that you start small and start eating more whole foods into your diet. All right. So my next question is, how does having a 9 to 5 affect your cycle, if at all?
Okay, so I want to say really quickly that I have nothing against 9 to 5s. I constantly get DMs, people, especially women, feeling really offended by what I say when it comes to 9 to 5s. And so I just want to say that if you are having to work a 9 to 5 because X, Y, or Z, and you're a Christian, um, that's where God has you for the moment. Okay. So don't feel bad that you can't stay home or you can't do this or whatever. Okay. Because I feel that many times women are just, they put so much pressure on themselves to
Yeah,
be like this Instagram influencer,
it's true.
and God has ordained a purpose for each one of us differently. Like, yes, our purpose as Christians is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, but then we have smaller purposes in life. So I just wanted to preface with that because, I'm going to talk about the negative effects of 9 to 5s, but that can happen anywhere. Even at home, you could be really lazy and affect others.
Okay.
Okay, so with the 9 to 5, yes, it does have it can have an effect on women and men both, because you could be stuck in a desk all day under artificial light without any movement, skipping your lunch in order to get things done, to meet deadlines. And I think that it can have a negative effect on women's cycles, especially when it comes to the stress. So if you really think about how our bodies work, stress is a negative factor that can affect our hormones, it can affect our menstrual cycle, and it can cause our bodies to live on fight or flight. And
Mm,
what that means is that you're constantly stressed out. You're constantly wondering, how you can meet this deadline, how you can get things done. And instead of living a little bit more peaceful, you're constantly stressed, like I said, and that can affect your hormones, and that can affect the quality of your sleep, that can affect your digestion, that can affect your mood, and it could just affect your overall health. Some of the effects when you think about working a 9 to 5 or being 8 hours plus under artificial light or stuck in front of a screen, it could be under eating. So like I said, skipping lunch because you need to get this deadline met, or you need to turn this in. It could also be migraines because of the stress. It could
mm,
be bowel problems, so not using the restroom because um, again, stress it affects so many things. So I'm going to sound redundant, but not using the restroom because you're stressed is real. Like, especially
mm,
someone as me that struggled with gut issues, stress, especially in women, and I talk about this on my course, or not my course, my program, my coaching program, the differences between men and women, especially the digestive system. We as women, because we have lower testosterone, we tend to deal with stress a little bit different than men. And stress can really put tension on our gut.
Mm.
Another thing that can happen when we work a 9 to 5 under stressful conditions can be under eating or overeating. So I mentioned under eating in the beginning, but then overeating. So you're so stressed that you restrict yourself of eating, and then you go home and you binge. They just overeat and overeat and overeat because you're so stressed out. Menstrual problems, obesity, hair loss because of the stress, low libido, acne, poor sleep, decreased fertility in women and in men, and just low energy overall. You go to bed, and since your circadian rhythm is out of check and it's not in tune, you go to bed quite energetically, and then you can't sleep. And then once you finally fall asleep, your alarm sounds and you're tired, and then you just repeat that every single day. And that's going to take a toll on your health. But the positive aspect, right? Do I share the positive aspect?
Yeah, you can share.
Okay, so the positive aspect, if you are dealing with a 9 to 5, either you work from home or you work in an office, is that you can take control of your schedule. Okay, you can take control of those free periods, those breaks that you get, what you do before checking into work, what you do after clocking out. You can take control of that. And one of the things that I tell women is to rest their eyes from the screen from time to time. Take a break. Like 5 minutes won't hurt you. And if your manager is breathing on your neck, like, why are you taking a break for 5 minutes? Really pray about it and find a new job. Like, no joke. No joke. I know women that they work in companies where management is real, and I've seen how it takes a toll on their bodies. So
Mm.
I would say take, a break from screen time. Take your break outside. Like, if you can have a lunch break, go and eat outside, even if you eat alone, but get some sunshine. Or if you have colleagues or coworkers, invite them and say, hey, you guys want to like have lunch outside? Or if you work at home and you have like a balcony, or you have a yard, or you have like a playground, maybe you can pack your lunch and go and eat it outside and just get some sunshine.
Mm.
Bring a nutritious lunch to work. Or if you're at home, cook meals, don't get used to takeout. And I would also say to leave work at work.
Mm.
And in your case, Anastasia, do you work from home?
I do. Yeah, I do work from home. I was going to talk about that because I think it's about the type of 9 to 5 that you have as well. And like how you said, like if your boss is on your neck like that, sometimes it's better to find a different job that's going to be better. I think when it comes for me as a homemaker and as a wife, the type of job that I have is extremely important because I put my home first. So I needed to make sure that I had a job that was home, that allowed me to be a little bit flexible, where I can take, 30 seconds to go and change laundry, or I could, on my lunch hour, be able to do a couple things around the house, and make sure that at nighttime, like how you said, I can turn off my laptop, because that's so important. I love how you said that, you can be extremely stressed out in a 9 to 5, or you can take control of your life and decide that you're not going to let the 9 to 5 affect, your personal life. I will have one thing to say about that, because recently I did get a new job, and it's a 9 to 5. And what I learned, because my old job that I had as of like a month and a half ago was a lot more chill than one that I have right now. It was interesting, but now it's like an actual, 9 to 5. And what I learned is that after work, when I'm done, um, if I get a good rest, if I, allow myself to get good rest after work, then the next day, it's just so much better. So I think it's also like how you said, if you actually do take control of your life, it is possible to be able to still do a 9 to 5, I guess, holistically. Not that this is like going to be my end all be all, like being in a 9 to 5 is not something that I want to do for the rest of my life or anything. But for the time being, I'm doing it, and I think that, like how you said, there's ways to do it without having to like completely ruin everything. And I've been in a job before where it has made my whole entire life a disaster, because it was extremely stressful. I overate insanely. Like, I was so overweight. It was like insane what this job did to me. And I would come home every day crying. Like, literally, I would cry my eyes out. My house was a disaster. My marriage was a mess. Like, I seriously, and that's what happens when you have a 9 to 5 that is so stressful that your outside life is a disaster too. And my husband was just kind of like, babe, just quit. Like, you don't have to work this job. Just quit. It's so much better. And once I quit, oh my goodness, everything was so much better after that. But yeah, it's so interesting what you talk about. Yeah. Wait, what'd you say?
I can imagine. No, I
Oh
can
yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have anything more to say about that?
The final thing that I would add, if you are, feeling drained with the 9 to 5 or working from home and not having like time for anything, like you said, take control of your schedule and
Yeah.
also schedule in time to move your body either before going into work or after. And that could
Yeah.
be a walk, getting in some nature, like looking at trees, going to the gym, whatever you prefer, getting a home workout done, whatever you prefer. But I think this all comes down when I say, or when we say take control of your life, we obviously mean the principle of stewarding your time wisely, because like I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, we are commanded by God to be good stewards of everything He's given us, and that includes our time. So, like you said, if your life includes a 9 to 5 and you're a homemaker, I think that's really admirable that you want to prioritize your home and then also help your husband with the income in that aspect or whatever. But also always keeping the priority that God has entrusted us to steward everything we've been given wisely.
That's so good. That's so good. And if you are a homemaker listening to this and you are a woman who takes care of like most of the things around the house, I will say one of the things that's been helping me so much having a 9 to 5 is I don't put as much stress on myself after work. After work, when I'm done with work, I have a list. I give myself a list of maybe 2 or 3 things to get done after work. And then I go to bed early because then I leave most of the things, like the bigger things, to get done on the weekends when I have more free time. But I don't stress myself out with things. And like how you said, I get movement in every day. So I will do right after work, I'll give myself 10 minutes, of going on a walk. I'll go to the gym. I'll do something to get movement in. Recently, I'm actually moving to a new place soon, so I've just been so extremely busy that I just told myself, you know what? I'm just going to at least get some type of movement in. And you'll be surprised what a 10-minute walk can do. You get steps in, you get outside, I'm able to look at trees, see some grass, and it feels so much better afterwards. So you don't have to be, a gym girl every single day. I do love going to the gym, but when you have not as much time, I think like how you said, just getting some type of movement in is going to be so beneficial. And I've realized even just this last week of like not putting too much pressure on myself after work to get a million things done, maybe getting a couple of things done, but then going to bed early and getting rest. I'd love for you to talk about how much sleep matters for our body, if you know anything about that.
Yes, I
Okay.
mean, sleep is so important. I would say sleep, this might be a little bit controversial, but I would say sleep is more important than your morning routine. Like your
Mm,
night routine is more important than your morning routine in the sense that if you do not sleep well, you're probably going to wake up super tired, super drained, on the wrong foot. And obviously, this is when we as Christians, we make the distinction and we say, okay, maybe I didn't get the best rest of my life, but I still choose to be kind. I still choose to, be loving to my family. I won't, blame my attitude on sleep. Now, that's when we make the distinction, right, as Christians. But
yeah.
I think that sleep is super important. And the average sleep that a woman should get anywhere from 8 to 9 hours. I would say there are women that say that they thrive on 5 hours, but when you really look at their lives, they're living constant stress. So I would say anywhere from 8 to 9 hours. And there was a saying that I read one time. It was like everything good happens when you sleep. I don't know what they were referring to, but I do know that the body re-energizes and it kind of, it does a lot of detox once you're sleeping. So yes, I agree with you in saying that sleep is super important.
Yeah. I seriously have noticed the difference in my body when I actually tell myself, you know what, I'm gonna go to bed early today. Because usually, and I've had I'm telling you, it's only like been in one this last week that I've given myself the good the right amount of sleep that I should have.
That's good.
Yeah. It's only been this last week, and I've seen an extremely crazy amount of difference during the day. It's like I'm more productive at work. I'm not as stressed out at work. I'm like I can see clearly. I'm like, okay, I could just do these things. After work, I feel like I feel more energetic. I can get a couple things done. And then, oh my goodness, it feels so good to just like, you know what? I'm gonna turn off my phone. I'm gonna turn off my laptop, everything. Like I'm not gonna think about all that. I'm just gonna rest right now. And my mornings have just been so amazing. I don't wake up feeling like, oh, I have to wake up again. It's like it feels good to wake up, you know? So I think that's so amazing. I did want to ask you, you were talking about circadian rhythm a little bit. Like you're talking about our circadian rhythm. What even is that and how do we differ from men there?
So circadian rhythm, there are different rhythms in our bodies that basically structure how we live. So there's a rhythm of digestion, of sleeping, different hormonal rhythms. But in that aspect of like our circadian rhythm, it's there's a name for it, like a little also known as when it comes to the sleep one. So something called like our biological bedtime clock.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that's what we call it, or our natural bedtime clock, something like that. But it's
Okay.
basically how when the sun is out, we are more awake, and then when the sun starts setting, we start producing more melatonin.
Okay.
So that is like that's just how we naturally work, and that's how we used to go to bed. Many, many, many years ago. But now that we're more modernized, which I think is amazing, and I think um, modernity, is that the word,
I
modernity?
think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking in Spanish modernidad. Um, but when we think about modern society, I don't think it's a bad thing that we have, advanced in a lot of things. I just think
Yeah.
that the bad thing is that instead of going to bed, let's say when the sun sets, or going to bed a little bit after that, we tend to extend our bedtime, and we go to bed at like midnight or something like that, and that's the time where our body should already be asleep, and it should
Yeah.
already re-energizing and and detoxing. So there's that aspect of the circadian rhythm. There's also the digestive aspect. So like I always tell the women on the program, when you finish eating, it's really good that you go for like a little walk, like a 10-minute walk, or you get some steps in, because that will really promote digestion. And
Mm.
you won't really hear that a lot, unfortunately, from like Western medicine. But it's a very common in like Chinese medicine, Indian medicine, and obviously the spiritual aspect of it, we do not agree on. But yes, the practical aspect of health, like walking after a meal, can help with digestion, because you're not just sitting there. You're actually, moving your body a little bit. And it's nothing crazy, by the way, it just
Yeah.
steps in.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. Okay, so a couple last questions that I have here for you. Um, is it normal for women to have painful periods?
Okay, so it depends what you mean on normal.
Okay.
If you mean that many women struggle with that and that it's common, then yes, unfortunately, many women struggle with that. If you mean that it's healthy, then no, it's not healthy, and it's not okay that women have painful periods. Most doctors will tell you that it's fine. That's just how women are nowadays. Here's a pill so that you can kill the pain. You
Mm,
know, that's just what's common now. But just because something is common doesn't make it normal.
right.
And the things that we see nowadays is a lot of women starting, I don't know, like when they're 12, they have like horrible, excruciating periods. And I'm like, you're a child, like you're still, a young lady who maybe she
Yeah.
just got her period. So now she's, stepping into womanhood. But you know what I mean? Like so young, we're already dealing with such painful periods that
Yeah.
come a lot of the times from hormonal imbalance. So to sum up the question and to answer you a little bit more summarized, I don't think it's normal. It's fairly common. It doesn't make it okay. And many times a painful period is your body giving you signs and kind of like speaking to you, like telling you, hey, something's up. And it could be excessive amounts of stress. It could be inflammation. So by the things that you're eating, it could be poor sleep. So maybe you're not getting in the right amount of hours. It could also be like a hormonal imbalance. So maybe you could have like PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Okay.
It could be like even endometriosis, where you get really, really painful um you get sharp pain in your abdomen, and it could come with like blood and things like that. um so it just depends. It depends on what your specific situation is. But that's what I love about homeopathic medicine or holistic medicine, where it's like you go to a naturopath or you go to a holistic health coach, which is what I'm studying to become, and we'll tell you like, hey, the fact that you're coming to me with a painful period means that there's something there. So let's see what it is. Let's find the underlying cause. Let's go to the root of it instead of telling you, well, it's just common nowadays. Here's the pill.
Mm, the pill. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's talk about that for a moment.
Oh.
So, how does taking hormonal birth control affect our cycle?
So, okay, I personally have never been on birth control, so I won't be able to tell you this is how you will feel. But I do have people very close to me that have taken it, and their personal experiences have been that they lose attraction for their husband. Okay.
Wow.
Like they literally lose sexual attraction for their husband,
Wow.
because if we really go to like the basic aspect of the birth control pill, there are different kinds for different amounts of harm for different types of hormones, sorry. But the most common type of birth control pill is that it will give you a synthetic hormone for you to supply your body with. And when you have synthetic hormones on you, like in your body, it's kind of tricking your body into having a natural cycle, but it's not natural. It's synthetic. Like at the root, it's different. Synthetic and natural, two different things. And it might trick your body into thinking that you're ovulating when you're actually not. So that's something that a lot of women go through, like mood swings, horrible mood swings. I know a lot of girls, friends of mine, that they're married and they have told me like, "Ugh, I had to get off birth control. We were on birth control like the first few months of our marriage, but I had to get off of it because I just couldn't handle my husband, or like my mood swings were horrible, or my husband told me like get off the pill because I can't recognize you, like you're
Mm,
so different." And obviously
wow.
there's a moral aspect to the birth control movement. If you really look at the origins from it, they were because um children were seen as a burden, right? Women were
Yep.
wanting to go out into the workforce. They were wanting to, you know, leave their homes. They wanted to do something about their lives, right? And when you look at the reason why women were stuck in their homes, it was because they were raising children. And so, how can we make women feel like they're free, like they're independent? Let's help them control when they conceive. And
Yeah.
essentially, like there's, as a Christian, I personally have my moral issues with birth control. Many of them are abortifacients, if that's the word. And also like they want to play God. I think there are other ways that we can, you know, plan our family naturally and you know, be open to the blessings that God has for us. But birth control is just not one of them, because it's going to really affect your health. And a lot of the things that maybe, I don't know, like big pharma doesn't want you to know, I did a reel on this, is how your body stops its own hormone production because it's just being, you know, consumed with synthetic hormones. It can also affect your thyroid, so you could have thyroid issues, you could have mood disorders. It, in some women, it's caused blood clots. It's also increased the risk of heart attacks. Like there's just so much. I don't know if you've seen the meme where someone has like the birth control side effects, or like the warning. It's like a whole booklet
No.
that you can wrap around your whole body, full of
Wow.
so many warnings and side effects, including
Wow.
like liver tumors, ectopic pregnancies, osteoporosis. Like it's insane.
Wow. It's crazy to hear about all this. I have never taken birth control, but to hear about just the fact that I had no idea about this. I had no idea that you actually don't get your period on birth control. You actually get, what is it like withdrawal blood or whatever it is? I forgot the exact term,
Like
but
synthetic.
yes, a synthetic period that's not even your real period. And just that in and of itself just sounds so bad, because why are we changing our bodies? Our bodies are not supposed to be doing that. Our period is a natural thing, it's a healthy thing to have. And you're so right. Just the origin. And I'm totally going to do another video about this because, oh my goodness, the origin of, birth control, going back to Margaret Sanger, going back to their trials on Puerto Rican women in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
I don't know if you know about that. That's
Yeah,
awful.
my grandma was a guinea pig
No
for that.
way.
My grandma, she's still alive, and I
That's
love her to death.
awful.
Yeah, she was put on birth control along with other women, and she was actually never able to breastfeed my mom and my two aunts.
Oh
Um,
my
and
goodness.
yeah, and also like she was put on a C-section, has nothing to do with birth control, but it's just like the way that these doctors were treating, especially on us Puerto Rican women, not me, because I've
Yeah.
for the 21st century, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Even like my grandma was told to have a C-section, and there's a whole nother business on C-sections. So it's just
Yeah.
it's
That
crazy.
is that is disgusting, and it's so sad that that
Yeah,
happened. And to hear about how, like how you said, I'm not demonizing people who take birth control, because I feel like a lot of people, a lot of women just don't know when they take it. And I'm seeing a whole movement of women who are getting off birth control because they're learning about their cycle, they're learning about their body. But just learning about the origin of birth control and how, like how you said, it came from the mindset of women hating that they had to take care of children, or not wanting children and wanting a way out of the blessing of children. And it came from this, societal attitude of this demonization of children, right? Because I mean, our society right now, you see people on TikTok, mothers saying that they regret motherhood. And I don't know why they would say that, because their children are going to grow up one day, they're going to see that. I don't know why women say that, and that's going to be a whole nother video someday. But
yeah,
yeah, it's insane. And like how you said, people just want to play God in a way, because they want to say, you know what, I'm not exactly ready for children. I don't want children. I just want to have as much sex as I possibly can with as many different people as I possibly can, and not have to worry about the consequences of my
exactly.
actions. And like I said, I'm not demonizing women that are on birth control. I think it's like your choice if you want to be on birth control, but I think it's, if you learn about the actual effects of it, if you learn about what it's doing to your body, I think it's empowering to realize, wow, I can only get pregnant 1 week of the month. And God created our body like that for a reason. you know he created our body like that. He created our cycle like that for a reason. I really didn't even learn that until I got married, that wow, you could actually only get pregnant 1 week of the month. Isn't
Yeah.
that insane?
Yeah, I
That is
learned that like a year ago or two.
yeah. Yeah. Like that is the most empowering thing to realize, wow, I don't need to work. I don't need to have a pill. I don't need to put something synthetic into my body. I could actually just learn about my body, learn about how God created me to be, and I could prevent pregnancy in that way. And I mean, there's
But
a whole
that's
other
the
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
And sorry to interrupt. That's the thing, that it's like we do not know our bodies. We don't know
exactly.
how they work. And so even a lot of women that struggle with hormonal imbalances, they don't have regular cycles. They don't have regular periods. And so they get told this lie of, well, just get on birth control so that you can regulate your cycle. But it's just like,
Mm,
it's not true. You're doing
yes.
harm to your body. And so
Yeah.
it's really important to know how we were made so that we can actually, understand how our bodies work. And also, like
Yeah.
you said, there's also this whole thing of like, oh, I'm gonna have as much sex as I can, without any commitment. Um, and if I get pregnant, because that's what happens when you have sex, you might get pregnant if you're fertile during
Yeah.
those days, then let me just, get
Yeah.
away with my child and kill it or something.
Yeah, it's sad. I hope that women are going to learn more and more about their body. And I hope that women will learn that this is actually not beneficial to them? So, yeah, that's just so insane. Really quickly, I wanted to ask you, how are men and women's hormonal cycle different?
So men and women thrive on different hormonal cycles. So men are made in a specific way and women are made in another specific way. Men specifically live on a 24-hour cycle. What does that mean? That every single day men's hormones will rise and fall similarly. Like every single day, their testosterone rises and falls. That's just how they work. Women, on the other hand, we live and our hormones fluctuate monthly. So at certain phases, right, going back to our menstrual cycle, at certain phases of the month, we have hormones that rise and hormones that decrease.
Mm.
During ovulation, we have a certain hormone that rises. During luteal phase, we have a certain hormone that rises. Like for example, in luteal phase, our progesterone is rising because that's when we're supposed to be conceiving, right? Like we're preparing our bodies to carry out that baby. So for example, a woman that struggles with PCOS, she has progesterone deficiency. When you don't have healthy levels of progesterone, either you might not get pregnant, or if you do get pregnant, you might not carry out that baby until delivery. So that's
Mm.
why some women struggle with, like, for example, early trimester miscarriage. So to sum it up, men and women, they run on different hormonal cycles. That's why I had talked about the 9 to 5, how yes, men and women can suffer from a 9 to 5, but I personally just feel like it takes a bigger toll on women who were dragging out, the stress from today, and then it just affects the rest of our phases. And how women feel will depend on the phase of their cycle that they're on. And if you go back and listen to the beginning of the podcast, then you'll remember that during menstruation, we tend to feel a little bit more restful. During ovulation, we tend to feel, more energetic and more confident, etc.
Wow, that's amazing. It's so amazing that God created our, our hormones to be different and to work together beautifully. So I think, yeah, I think that's why, I mean, even though I have a 9 to 5, I understand that, some days I don't feel like going to work. Especially when I'm on my period, I just want to rest, I just want to do different things. And I totally can see working a 9 to 5. Wow, this really wasn't meant for me. And I'm meant to work differently. But yeah, I think it's just really interesting to learn about how men and women are different. I had no idea that there was different cycles until maybe a year ago, that men every single day they have the ways that their hormones are, and then we have our 30 days, which is really interesting. How does exercising affect our cycle?
So exercise is really important. We should all strive to move our bodies, maybe at least like 30 minutes a day. And even me, that's something that I struggle with, because I'm like a busy bee, or like I'm a
Yeah.
go-getter. So like I have, all the things that I need to do today, and like, oh, I'm sorry, Lord, but I don't have time to move my body today or something, like, so I personally, that's something that I'm very intentional about, because it's so easy for me to skip movement. Like,
Mm.
no one's perfect. So in my case, that's my Achilles heel, if you will. But movement is super important. And if you don't move correctly, what I mean by this is that if you put certain amounts of stress on your body every single day by specific movements, it can really affect your cortisol levels. So like, for example, if you are a woman who is constantly doing excessive amounts of exercise, putting so much strain on her body, and then under eating, just imagine how your body is dealing with that. Like your cortisol levels are through the roof. And there was actually a study, and I did post this. I did a post on this, on why women and men should exercise differently.
Mm.
Um, it showed that intense exercise can actually lead to elevated levels of cortisol in the bloodstream, even when you're not exercising. So even when you're not moving your body, you're like on high levels of stress. And I
Wow.
pointed out that there isn't, I mean, I personally don't think that there's such a thing as like a boy exercise or a male exercise and female exercise. Like, I don't think that, for example, boxing is for men. Like, I mean the movement. Like,
Yeah.
I personally think that, it makes women be strong. And for pregnancy, like, you got to be strong. Like, like that's a whole human you're carrying inside of you. So
Yeah.
I'm personally not opposed to like women doing CrossFit or kickboxing or things like that. But what I do think is that women could be harmed by the type of exercise they do, when they do it, and how frequently they do it. So I would say, make sure to exercise according to your cycle. And again, that's going
Yeah.
to depend on the woman, but I do think that we're different sexes, and so our bones and muscles might function similarly. But the type of exercise that we do, if we can kind of sync it to the phase of the menstrual cycle we're on, we can thrive.
Okay, so syncing to the menstrual cycle, that's amazing. Can you talk a little bit about that? What are different exercises that you think would be good for women to do each menstrual phase? or each phase?
So
Yeah.
I on the post that I did, I touched on this, and so I'm just going to talk about that.
Yeah.
I think personally that again, this will depend on the woman. I always have to say this because we're just so different, you know, as women, like
Hmm.
we're so different. And so maybe what my body craves at a certain phase of my cycle is not what your body craves. But like a general little cheat sheet, I would say that when we're on our menstruation phase, you can do things that are a bit more restful. So maybe walking or even just like resting if that's
Hmm.
what your body is asking you, especially in that part of your health journey where you're seeking to heal your hormones and
Hmm.
you're on your period and you're just tired, you're allowed to rest. Like it's okay. Just rest for 7 days, for 5 days, whatever.
Hmm.
And make sure to move your body intentionally for the rest of the month. But I would say maybe like steady pace jogging, Pilates, bar, if you're into those things. And if your hormones are pretty healed and you feel like your body is craving strength training and you're on your period, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You could definitely do that. But if you're in that healing process, I would definitely stick to just less intense workouts. But just know that less intense does not mean less impact.
Hmm.
So you can do less strenuous exercises and still get really good results. For follicular, I would say it's a good time to start doing like CrossFit. You can also do like some heavy weights, cycling. I personally love to surf. The tides have been really lately,
You
but
love to surf? That's amazing.
yeah, I've been learning. I'm not a pro or anything, but I've been learning. I have a surfboard, and here in Puerto Rico, the waves are pretty good. But right now, they're so like towards Christmas break, I'm definitely gonna get some more waves.
That's
But yes,
amazing. I love
yeah,
that.
but that's definitely a good time to like incorporate a little bit more of
Yeah.
intensity. During ovulation, I would say is when you can have like the most fun. You can do the most intense workouts. You can lift heavy weights. You can do challenging runs. You can really
Mm.
push yourself because it's when your hormones are most like your estrogen is at its peak and you just feel most confident. And then for luteal, which is right before your period, you can start kind of decreasing the intensity towards the so let me just explain this real quick. Like
Okay.
the first half of luteal, you can still do some intense workouts if you want, but towards the second half, reaching towards your period, you can start decreasing that intensity again.
Mm.
Um, so hopefully I made sense, but just like a little summary, during luteal phase and menstruation phase, you can focus on lower impact. And then during follicular and ovulation, you can focus on high intensity and just avoid too many intense workouts if you have a hormonal imbalance because it could just increase your cortisol levels.
I'm definitely gonna have to try that this next cycle. That's really exciting. The last question that I have for you is where can my audience find you?
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. And I'm super honored to be here and to share about health with ladies. If you want to know more about like how to heal your gut naturally, how to fix your sleep naturally, you can find me on Instagram. It's at Natalie Julianne. So NATALIEJULIANNE. That's just my first and middle name.
Okay.
And there I just talk about healing your gut naturally because that's how I was able to just have better health. And I also talk a lot about why our gut is so important. My phrase is a happy tummy equals a happy life because when you have when you have proper gut health, your mood is better, your just overall health is better. When you eat good foods that support your health, you can also support fertility. So our body really is connected and all of our systems are connected. So I personally love to say that when your gut health is right, a lot of things will also be right in your body. I also have a YouTube channel which I am starting to upload on very soon regarding like health content. It's going to be a little bit more entertaining and it's also Natalie Julianne. So if you
Awesome.
are interested in following me there, you can. And I also have a coaching program designed for women who are looking to heal their gut naturally, like I said, who are tired of bloating, of constipation, of poor sleep, and who are just overwhelmed by so much information and really don't know like where to start. It's a group coaching program. It's called Health Reset for Ladies, and it's a 4-step process to healing yourself naturally.
Thank you so much for coming on. I loved having you on in our conversation today. Do you have any last words to say before we get going?
Yes. So again, thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor and such a privilege. Hopefully we can chat about other things and, we can have more conversations. But one thing that I did want to close with is that women were made to work. Okay. I think that that's just something that I always like to say. And I learned it off of Even Exile, which is a really good book by Rebecca Merkel.
Okay.
Women were made to work. And so whether you're working in your home or you're working outside the home, do it for the glory of God. Make sure to know about your cycle, to know about your health so that you can serve your family as well as you can. But don't think that just because we're here talking about, how 9 to 5s could take a toll on women's health or whatever, we're saying that women have to sit still and look pretty, because that's not biblical. Okay. We were made to work. God gave that commandment to Adam and Eve in the garden.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful thing that we can use our talents and our health and our bodies and our time to glorify God. So heal your
That's so
gut
good.
naturally, make sure to have good health, learn about your cycle, and yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Honestly, that's so good. That last point that you made, women are made to work. I believe that's one thing. I saw a post from this woman once that was like, God never intended us to work. And it was like saying that work was a reason from the fall. And that's so untrue. When I saw that, I was like blown away, because literally in the beginning, when God created Eve, he created her to help Adam tend the garden. He created us to work. And I believe that he created us to work on things that we would enjoy. We were first, they're gardeners. I think that's amazing. And I totally agree with you. Women and men, we're both created to work. And yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for that last thing. And definitely, guys, we're gonna have Natalie on again. So definitely put questions in the comments that you may have for her for next time, because we're totally going to talk about other things in the future, and I'm so excited for that. But either way, thank you so much, Natalie. It was wonderful having you on today, and we'll see you guys next time. Hey, you made it to the end. If you like this episode of Homework, then you definitely want to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps our channel, and it would mean so much to me. Thank you so much for watching until the end. And if you are interested in more episodes of Homework, then you want to come back next week, because we will have a new episode for you then. All right, see you guys later. Bye.